Well, good afternoon. It's a new day. New day, new challenges. So on the positive side, our sink and faucet work. So this is good. So no drip, no leak, nice and dry. We'll take that. So that's one project done. On my end, we ended up doing a lot of running around today to find this. This is like a bus bar. So the challenge I have right now is on our shunt negative terminal, I have 5 leads coming in. So the leads are from AWG to thickness lugs. So, well, 4 of the 5 are. So they're kind of thick and hardy, and they simply don't fit on the shunt. So I bought this little baby. This little baby, essentially, I'm going to put it back in the back of the battery case. I'll run my lines into the bottom here, and then out of the top, I can run a single line over to the shunt. So that'll give me enough room on the shunt to handle 1 or 2 leads. That's fine. And then lots of room down here to make connections. This is one of the areas that I'm just incredibly frustrated with the solar company. This is like a no-brainer to me. Like, to have something like this, or to have a discussion about a part like this ahead of time. Like, I don't think we're unique in the fact that we are putting 5 different connections onto the shunt. But not being a designer of these systems, I think, and it's not until you like try to connect them where I'm like, hey, there's too many, this doesn't work. So I wish that the designers, the salesperson, whomever, had been a little more proactive about helping us build the system. We are at an RV park. We're at an RV park, though, in the middle of nowhere because it's cheap. It's like $30 a day. So that's the good news, is it's cheap. The bad news is it's in the middle of nowhere. So this morning we drove about an hour one way to an electrical store where I bought a lot of the other supplies for this project. And they were like, no, don't have that. Go to this store. So I went to the second store and Platt was like, we got you covered, but we don't have you covered here. We've got you covered like 90 minutes, 2 hours from here. I was like, no, find something local. So they found something local that from the second store was like an hour away from them. So to get this tiny little part that costs like $35, today we've spent 6 hours in the truck. Hours.
Yeah, but it's cheap to stay here, right?
Yeah. So
yeah.
My next step is to literally go through now and disconnect all the lines I already made, take the batteries out, because I don't know if you can tell, but for me, the battery compartment is about 12 by 12 and maybe 16 inches deep, 16, 20 inches deep. So to do the wiring in the back, to me, it's like I'm like trying to fit in a very, very small space with my hands. Where I've done electrical work in the past, it's always been like residential stuff, where you have room, like freedom of movement, you can move and do your thing. This, to me, I was thinking yesterday when I was out there, this is like I'm going up like a birth canal or something. That's so stinking tight. I could, if I was a braver man than I am, I could leave all the batteries and the connections in there and then try to put my arms over top and work behind it. But I think you saw and I saw what happened a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that's not going to be going down again.
So I'm going to undo all the wiring that I did, and then I'll wire in this bad boy, and then I'll put all the wiring back. So that's kind of our plan for today. I'm hopeful for success. Oh, something I did not show you last night. Crazy as it is, the inverter works. I don't know how.
Yeah, again, these comments to the video camera are great, but they do not instill confidence in the one behind the camera.
So we can see, like right now, I think what's happened is we have an open circuit. So when I put this in, I think we're going to be able to close the circuit. So I think we're getting some current flow through here. So some things work, other things don't. But dip me in shit and throw me against the wall, inverter works. So I can turn on the inverter with Bluetooth, and then I plugged into our new outlet here, and it worked just fine. So that's kind of cool. But it shows me right now that our voltage that we're getting from the roof is 0. So we've got some issues to resolve. So first step, put this bad boy in. So this is the disconnect we put in for the inverter. So on the inverter, right now we've got a green light. So I'm going to go ahead and kill power up here. There we go. Red light off. So de-energized. When we look over here on the other side, this is our solar charge controller. And I have a breaker over here. So I'm going to throw this breaker. So we did have a blue light that was flashing here for Bluetooth. We no longer have a blue light flashing. So we've terminated power to both of these. Now I'm going to go up and I'm going to also, we're going to kill the power for the solar feeding down. Solar feeds down to right here to our charge controller, but just because I'm an anal son of a gun, I'm going to kill power on it too. So here in our closet, this is our solar. So we're going to throw that switch to off. Outside, because I was working on the stove, I don't honestly know if the gas has any kind of pressure valve in it or whatever. So if it's just like spewing gas, it would automatically turn off. No idea. So what I actually did was I turned off the gas outside. So I turned the valve all the way shut on the propane tank, and then I took it a step further and I disconnected from the propane bottle. The other thing I did outside was I killed like the main power switch for the entire camper. So I've got the big red off, just like the button we just looked at. We have one of those in our black and gray water compartment that we can use that to turn power off. So theoretically, everything has been neutralized as far as power. I also disconnected the main shore power. So I'm doing everything I can to make sure we don't have any energy here except what's in the batteries. Deeper than I realized. There. So I've still got quite a bit of insulation I can trim off here. Let's trim some more. Yeah, what's the weather like today for you? Here, it's in the 90s. Do I like that? I'll take just a hair off. So, luckily we've picked like the absolute warmest time of the year here to do this little project. Kind of under the gun. We've got commitments. There we go. We've got commitments coming up starting late next week, so I need to talk less and focus more. So yeah, so starting late next week, we're gonna head up to Seattle and visit with my brother, and then after that we're gonna go visit our friends Mark and his family. We met them when we were hiking the PCT in 2019. We kind of go see them every year now. And then after that, we're going to go to Omak, Washington, and visit some truck camper friends of ours, Vinny. And I think after that, we might, maybe, swing through Spokane, see an old high school friend of mine. And after that, we would be going down to Yakima, Washington, and then maybe over towards Goldendale to look at some property. So, all that to say, I really need to get this shit finished up. Alright. So one of the challenges I have is mounting this stuff to this wall. Like you probably saw, it's just like this, I don't know, plastic, whatever, PVC. So I think when I first put this up, I was using, I knew it was temporary. I put up some mollies, and then I've switched over to bolts and nuts to hang it up. So I'm going to position this and then drill a hole, and then we'll mount this with bolts and a nut. After I get this bent the way I want it. I was telling the guy today from AM Solar, like, this is what I'm going to do. Oh, you almost would have thought I was speaking to him in Greek. Oh. He sent me some diagram. That's the look on my face when I read it. I'm like, oh. I was like, I don't know what the holy heck you're talking about, but it's not what I'm talking about. Yeah, I think we can make that work. Here, I'll show you what I'm looking at. So I'm thinking I'll mount it over here, and I can run my line over to the shunt. The question is just if my line is too long. I think that'll be all right. All right, let's drill some holes. Well, good morning. Welcome to what seems like our 500th day of chaos here in the camper. So, I stayed up late last night watching videos on other people installing their solar.
You stay up late every night doing that,
There's just something about losing shore power. So, this morning and yesterday I was kind of going all around checking voltage, and I can see that my voltage from the solar panels is 0. So we're not getting any signal coming down from the solar panels, which is a little crazy to me. So I'm going to go up and check those connections. And then I realized I had, I talked with the guys at AM Solar, and I had said, like, I'm gonna, because I've got these, the camper came pre-wired for solar. So I told the guy from AM Solar, like, since I'm not using their lines, I'm going to disconnect them. And he said, yeah, that's the same thing he would do. So I disconnected them. I'm gonna reconnect them today and see what happens. I'm not sure. I'm really, we're in the weeds at this point. There's a few more things I can check here, and I'm going to check them today. But I've already sent out all of my information this morning, my data, to the guy I'm working with, who's also named Steve at AM Solar, and said, like, here's my data. Like, here's what I think my plan should be for today. Please give me your thoughts. So I'm going to go try to check some measurements on the roof, and hopefully I'll get a response from them soon saying, do it, or you stupid shit. All right. It's been a few hours since I gave you an update. Truth be told, I'm not really in the mood to give you an update right now, but I kind of figured maybe that's the best time to give you an update. So you don't get a sanitary version. So I'm pissed off right now. I sent my data that I collected this morning off to AM Solar and described to them what's going on. And their feedback that I received about an hour ago was that the work they had me do on the breaker box was a miscommunication on their end. And that we really can't do what they had me do and have it work. I recognize a DIY project. The value that I bring to the DIY project is that I'm doing it myself. And it is my sweat equity in this project that allows me to enjoy a lower cost. And that's the trade. But at this point in this project, this just seems to me like perhaps the people I'm working with, and I don't know what's going on behind the scenes there with them, but from my end, this is showing no respect for my time. To have me do work, and like I send pictures, like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what it looks like when I'm done. And it's not until I come back later and say, hey, I'm having a problem, they say, oh, well, you shouldn't have done that. Seems pretty disrespectful of my time. Right there. I vented, I bitched. My voltage readings on the roof. So all three panels, when I check the voltage at the C-box, all of them are coming in with a voltage around 0.7, which is just nothing. One of the panels, I don't have the shrink wrap over the quick disconnect, so I did a disconnect and then I measured right at the terminals before any wiring that I had added on. And when I do that, the voltage was around 20 volts. So that's a new question I asked to the folks at AM Solar was, do I expect to see a voltage drop of that nature? I don't think I should. So that makes me question if the crimp-on connections I did were too tight or too loose and I don't have a good connection. So, yeah. Waiting to get an answer back on that. I did find under the stove when I measured on the solar charge controller on the PVV, so power coming from the solar panels, I had no reading. So I disconnected both the positive and the negative terminal. Both of them looked like they had really good connections to me. I could see where they've been clamped down on quite tightly, crimped quite tightly. But when I went ahead and reconnected both of those, then I was getting a voltage reading, pretty much, the same voltage from the roof where I was getting around 0.6, 0.7 volts. The sun has come out, voltage was up maybe 20 minutes ago to about 1 volt. I think I need to get 5 volts before our charger will even start kicking over to the batteries. So kind of what's happening in the background the last couple days as we've been doing this is our battery bank is getting lower and lower because when we're connecting to shore power, we're not charging anything. So where we sit right this moment, we're at about a 70% battery charge. So one of our plans today, before we continue much further into this project, will be to raise the truck, the camper back up. Right now the camper's off the truck, closer to the ground, easier for me to work. But I want to get the camper back up and into the truck just in case we continue to have problems. We won't be stuck here without being able to get the camper back in the truck. I think if we had to, we could use a drill and manually, work all 4 jacks, but I could stick a large stick in my eye too, but I don't necessarily need to do that. So the issue going on with the panels right now is kind of on a back burner. Issue under the ovens kind of on a back burner, so I'm going to go back and focus on undoing what I did to the breaker panel. I was actually telling Noel, I'm a little pissed about the whole breaker panel business. asked the homeowner, like the line I kind of drew in the sand, like where I didn't really go, was the breaker panel. Like I was comfortable to do all the electrical work around the house. That didn't bother me. And when I had problems, it didn't bother me to call someone to come fix it, you know, pay them. I accept that. But the breaker box was always my, like, meh, you know, that's the line that I didn't cross, that I'd set myself. So to end up in this project where I'm guessing, you know, 85% of the way through, and they're like, oh yeah, you got to do work on the breaker box. If I had known that up front, this wouldn't have been a DIY project for me. I would have not agreed to do it. So I'm kind of pissy, I guess, all the way around. But anyway, my goal right now is to get the wires that I disconnected, to get them reconnected, and then hopefully once we do that, we would have shore power once again. If we have shore power, our batteries will charge, and then my irritation will decrease tremendously. Plus, it's been hotter than here, and we're in an RV park, but we can't even use our AC, so yeah, I'm just kind of all around grumpy. Well, good morning. Slept in today. Woke up at 7. Really tired, so I thought, let's sleep another day. Sleep another couple of hours. So I slept another couple hours, got up. Still really tired, but it doesn't really matter. So today what I need to accomplish, I'm going to pull the stove, I think first thing, and I'm going to check my connections on the solar charge controller, make sure everyone is neat and tidy. Then we'll recheck voltage down here. If I'm not seeing, I don't know, I'm seeing right now roughly, 1 volt. I should be seeing, some kind of multiple of 300 watt panels. So maybe, depending on the sun, I don't know, maybe I'd see 60 volts up to 200-ish volts. I should be seeing a lot more than what we're seeing. So if I don't see that down here, after making sure all my connections are clean, then I'm headed back up to the roof where I need to check the panels one by one. I've got that going on. Also in the background, we were excited last night. We had shore power, and we still do have shore power, sort of. Our batteries are charging, so that was good. That was what I was really after. But I went to check something on our main panel here last night, and when I was checking like our water level, and I hit the button to check water level, and the panel just went, and the whole panel went dark. So I can't check our water levels. Before there was a button on there for checking battery levels. None of that works. So then I started going through the panel button by button, and our hot water heater isn't working. Whether I try to do it from gas or whether I try to do it from just electric. And then I was like, oh, okay, I knocked something loose on the breaker box yesterday. Then last night I went to use my CPAP. I've got one that plugs in, one that runs from a battery, and my plug-in would not work. It just said power connection issue. So this morning I was checking voltages. I'm getting about 123. Doesn't seem bad. I checked the voltage off of the inverter, and it's just that's why I paid good money. It's 120. I think I tested it maybe 4 or 5 times, and I was like 119.9, 120, 119.9, maybe another 119.9. So getting what we paid for there as far as having a clean output. So my assumption is that when I was monkeying around in the breaker box yesterday, I bumped something or whatever, so I'm going to go through and I'll check all the grounds, I'll check all the connections, because it seems like everything that we're having a problem with is on the left side of the breaker, which is where I was working yesterday, and everything on the right side of the breaker is functioning okay. So one of the reasons I wanted to stay out of the breaker box. So that's kind of my plan for today. Fingers crossed that we can wrap this up somewhat early and this doesn't turn into another 12-hour ordeal. Keep you posted. All right, let's check some voltages. So I'll turn the inverter on. So on our inverter, call it 13.2. I'm going to check on our solar charge controller on the battery side. Battery side 13.18. On the solar panels 0.804. This is what we look like. Maybe there's one. Maybe. One little tiny wire. I'm not sure. Alright, I'll pull it out and we'll clean it up. Try again. Okay, so here's what they look like. Doesn't seem bad. Maybe this guy. So, alright, let's try cleaning them up a bit. Just going to start over. Just making sure I had enough room to start over before I get all clip happy. See, that fitting doesn't look good. That fitting now looks perfect. See what that looks like. Looks good to me. So the battery side actually looks a little messy to me, so I'll pull that and we'll clean those up too. The voltage, after I removed everything from the solar charge controller, removed the wires, cleaned up the connections, which didn't look bad to me to begin with, put them all back in, we're still reading the same, like less than a volt on the input side from the solar panels. So this means our issue resides up top. So we're headed up top. So what I'm finding here, the one panel that I actually wired myself, the old panel, I got the polarity reversed. So it is showing, I check it, minus 21 volts, versus the other guys are showing, I'm going to check them, 21, 22, so yeah. Alright, not a big deal. A little frustrating. I thought I had checked this really carefully, but clearly. I didn't. I don't know what the fuck I did. Frankly. Well, I know what I did. I put it backwards. I just don't know how I did that. I guess I don't have to try to figure out on camera, but that really bothers me. Yeah. So I've cut this so tight. Not cut it tight, but yeah, I didn't want a lot of extra cable, so I'm just going to need to cut a new piece of cable for up here. Alright, this requires another trip back down to the camper to its supplies there. I finished hooking up on the roof now, so looks like, not looks, it was. I was the root of the problem with the panels. So our existing, the two new panels that came, that we had just purchased, they came essentially pre-wired with quick connect, quick disconnect plugs. So there's really no concern about polarity on those. The one panel that I checked myself, our old panel, its quick connect does not fit to what we're doing now, so I just needed to wire it. So I ended up getting my wires reversed, the positive and the negative. So what I had done was I had checked the polarity before I made my connections, and then I checked again after I had made the connection to the, essentially like the bus bar. As I realized and was educated, you have to check the polarity before they hit the bus bar. So even though I was checking on the bus bar and it was showing me that I had a positive and a negative connection, that just was no longer so. It was when I took them, disconnected them from the bus bar and took a look at them and, you know, actually measured them out. That's when I said, oh my God, I actually reversed this. So I've caused myself time on this. So a couple hours easily of just from me fat fingering it. So got that squared away. I decided, you know, since I'm up on the roof and I'm doing wiring, I might as well just wire in that little trickle charger we have. It's a 20 watt, it sits on top of our AC unit. So I went ahead and did that, and then once I actually got to the point of, I punched out one of the punch-in holes, or punch-out holes, whatever they're called, on the combiner box, I realized that I don't actually have the connection. Like, it's a compression fitting that you use when you run the wire into the box. So I ran to the store, Ace Hardware. They really did not have what I needed. I asked their expert for help, and his expert advice to me was, well, you are in the electrical section, and if we have something, it would be here. So I got a fitting. It's not the right size fitting. So when I actually put the box back onto the combiner box, it doesn't seat all the way down on this new fitting. So I kind of got it, it's loosely tightened. I'll just order the correct fitting from AM Solar and they can send that to me. And then as well, I need for them to send me, I think I need 2 more of the heat shrink wraps to go on, you can see it in their tape that we shot video. 2 of our quick connect disconnect fittings are just exposed, and I think I want to put those under a heat shrink as well. But I think we're in business, so now I'm going to turn everything back on here as far as all of our hard disconnects, and we'll see what our voltage is now down here at the solar charge controller. I think expectation is, since I had voltage up there now, as I'm reading about 20 volts, I should have the same down here. So we'll find out together.